The Burn Network, a collection of metalworking podcasts.
All right, episode 81, Toby Fire and Steel podcast. Unfortunately, we have no Honor Kaglar today. Honor Kaglar has had some sad news in his family, and he's not with us this week. I'll let him highlight any of that if he wants to talk about it next week. So this week I have a beautiful stand-in, another tattooed friend of mine, probably almost as good looking as Honor, slightly different accent. Jez Haywood, how are you, brother?
Yeah, good, man. How are you?
Good, mate. Do you know what? I feel like it's bedtime. I was just about to complain about getting up early every day, but then I remembered you're the guy who gets up at 4 o'clock most mornings, so I shouldn't complain.
Yeah, it's actually while I'm at home today, not in the workshop. I've been sleeping like crap. And
yeah, right.
To be honest, man, I've probably had maybe 25 hours sleep this week. It's just
this week.
Yeah, it's a real issue. It's a real issue. So yeah, just
a real issue. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I just
Man.
I'll see how today goes. I might substitute tomorrow morning for what would have been today. But I got some stuff glued
So
up.
you're not going down the forge. You don't really want to be heating stuff up to 1,000 degrees Celsius with 5 hours sleep in a week.
Well, not really that. The reality is, for me, like when I go to the workshop, I'm there by 4, and I'm home around 6:30 or 7. So if I can't do it then, I just don't bother. If I can't leave the house until, like, if I sleep in inverted commas to 4:30 or something, it's not worth going over.
Yeah, right. By the time you lit the forge and everything, you switching it off to come back.
Yeah, it's just it's just, and I do it at that time so it doesn't take any time out of the family. And if I'm not home to 8 o'clock in the morning, the kids are up and they've all gone for a walk and whatever. What's the point?
Oh, mate. What's the weather like, hey?
Here?
It's warm here, which is weird.
No, it's not warm here. It's been... We've had, the last week or so, there's been a lot of snow up in Barrington's. Been snow down to about 900 metres. They had, we're talking like 40 inches of snow at Nowndock and Tamworth and places like that. Real snow, not just a little bit of snow, but after a week it was head deep. So it's been cold and fine, but we've had a week of rain on and off. But it's cold. I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's not cold, but it's probably 8 or 9 degrees here now. Certainly isn't.
Hence the hoodie up.
Yeah, hence the hoodie. Yeah, it's cold. It's cold out here in the gimp shed out the back. That's for sure.
In the mildly insulated gimp shed.
Yeah.
No forge in there anymore to heat up the room.
No forge. Sometimes I do flick the kiln on and leave the door open.
just to warm the room up a bit.
I took it off the other day, but I do also have I got a couple of whirlybirds and I block them off during winter because otherwise it's just super drafty.
Freezing.
Oh, freezing. Yeah. That's all right though. It needs a bit of a going over, to be perfectly honest. But is what it is. It's pretty messy here because I just do handles and hand sanding, finishing off stuff. So it's pretty, I do vacuum and
dusty,
blow it out and whatever. Yeah, but it's super dusty. It needs probably needs a day of everything taken out of it, all the cupboards and stuff taken out, and roller drawers and all that, and a really good one too. But that's not going to happen until
deep clean. I was going to say it doesn't sound like
happen until
fun.
It's all right. It's got to be done. I mean, I'm sort of starting to do the same stuff at the steel workshop. I've had it for just over a year, I think now, and man, my press and rolling mills really copped a hard time. So
yeah, Australia's biggest steel producer.
Yeah, apparently. So I've actually bought another on Facebook Marketplace. A guy had converted a 4-inch cylinder, hydraulic cylinder, into a log splitter with a 24-volt motor and hydraulic pump and whatever. And I bought that super cheap with a whole heap of new hoses and 2 control units and all that sort of stuff. So I'm actually going to, I just finalised all the overall dimensions and stuff for the steel yesterday. So I'll order that with my steel guy today, and I'll build that press after the Sydney show, if it's on. And hopefully it's on. But they've just had a new wave of the Rona in Sydney, and not to get off COVID, man, but I'm so over it. Like, it's just like one. This is how dumb it is here. So, or it's dumb everywhere, right? But so there was one, and this is just ridiculous. We've got the vaccine here. I've had one shot. We've got another one this coming week. Like, it's around, right? But the one guy that was transporting, who is like transporting aircraft and airline officials and pilots and staff, wasn't vaccinated. So he picked up the Delta strain. They don't know where from. He gave it to someone else who took it to a hair salon or something, and then this party out at in Western Sydney, and now all of a sudden they had 32 cases yesterday. So Sydney, and I'm not sure Sydney Greater, but I'm pretty sure Sydney Greater will also. But everything's just locked down in Sydney again. Businesses that were trading fine on Thursday, everyone obeying the rules, doing what they need to do, going on with their day, now are closed. It's mate, I don't know what it's like over there, but I've had enough over here. I'll give you the tip.
Well, we had 12,000 cases last night.
Man, we're nothing. So, I don't think we've had 12,000 cases the whole time.
No, we have more. I think there was a stage where we were having more deaths per day than Australia's had all in all cases.
Yeah, look, I'm certainly not a COVID denier, and I do, there are people at risk in our community, but it's been 18 months now. If people, I think the time's come for people to just, obey the rules and get on with their life. Like if you want to be out at a party somewhere with no mask on and all sweaty and stuff, go for it. But I think's enough. How many more years are we going to keep doing this? Do you know what I mean? It's just
that's the problem, Jez. Like everybody wants to get back on their lives, and England have been saying they're going to basically get rid of all of the not legislation, but all the rules. So masks will go, social distancing will go, and it was supposed to happen last week or this week or something, and they put it back a month. But the problem with it is nobody seems to get it, and so a lot of English people. I work on sites sometimes with 10, 15 guys all over a building site, and I'll be the only one with a mask on. Literally, only one with a mask on. Full stop. And I've said to a few of them, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Oh, we all work together anyway. If one of us gets it, we're all going to get it." I'm like, "Yeah, that's awesome." It's like going around not using protection when you're sleeping with chicks in a club and knowing that someone's got something and going, I'm going to get it anyway.
Well, that's actually, from my understanding last night, kind of what's got us into this trouble with one of these things is that this guy took it home, and so his family weren't considered close contacts because they weren't the first step or something, and then his family got it and then took it to a party and then took it here and then that person took it somewhere else. And look, to be perfectly honest, this round of just close, it doesn't affect me personally here in Newcastle. That we're the next step though, really. But just let people get on with their lives, honestly. Like but anyway, hopefully the Sydney show's still on. I think it's 5 or 6 weeks away. So hopefully by then, but we were on track to just, probably just have a normal show with no masks and all that sort of stuff. But now, they've gone back to the only one person, 4 square meters. Everyone that's in retail needs to have a mask on. That's what's going on in Sydney now. So I'm assuming that's what
It's going to make it a hard show.
Well, yeah, I think in one respect, I think most people are used to it now, like having to book tickets in advance and all that sort of thing. I don't think it's a particular issue. There's going to be no walk-in traffic anyway because they're not allowed to have any walk-in traffic, is my understanding. But, who knows, man. Look, but anyway, getting back to what I was talking about, the press will get billed after the show. I'll just need to get through to the show and get over that hump. And then the month after that, pretty much, I think, got a few orders to knock over, and I'll build another press, and then I don't know if I'll put the big girl into semi-retirement or just square up some things and just use it. And that's a good thing about having more machines doing the same job, right, is that it all shares the load. So the big press has had a couple of repairs because when I built it out of scrap, and there was, not much consideration given or known to what I needed or where the issues were going to be. And it's to be honest, it's performed pretty much fine, but I've had to repair a couple of cracks in it, which doesn't surprise me, just because of the way it was built on a floor and whatever. And I will build or buy another rolling mill as well, and have another press. This rolling mill will probably go to a friend, and I'll sort out a new rolling mill and get through the show. Yeah.
So, yeah, man. So, I mean, talking to the show and talking to building tools, you've been working on something pretty serious that not many people have got at the moment. Are we talking about
that? Yeah, we can talk about it. Should be finished off as a product next week or the week after. So I've been building and trialing digital gas powered fluidized sand bed for heat treating. So I've had a couple of runs at it. I've built the controller. There's 2 types of controller you can really use for it. I'm not sure how. I will offer it as a product, but it's probably going to be offered as the box with the crucible for the sand, everything ready to go, and plug in your own controller. The reality here in Australia is that providing someone with a electrical item, a gas item, can be a little bit, legislation-wise, a little bit tricky. So I was talking to Corin from Gemico a little while ago, and it looks like they may have a digital controller available around the same time. So to be perfectly honest, I would prefer people get a controller from them or build their own. I'm not saying you can't build one or that they're difficult, but as far, there's a big difference between doing things yourself when you know what you're doing and then being able to offer them en masse. So
yeah, good.
Yeah. So what this one in its final guise will be, essentially what it'll be is a black box with 2 large burners, insulated, all that kind of stuff, all the hoses, all the argon or whatever gas you want to use for fluidizing the sand bed. It'll all be ready to plug in a controller, and you need to bring your own solenoid and controller, or we can talk about it and I can guide people through on how to build it, and then it's up to them. They need to get qualified electricians and gas fitters to check it all. But mine will be, I will have one at the show for people to see. So it'll all be hard plumbed with copper as well. So it'll look pretty good as far as just a black box, copper tubing, and that's it. There'll be no external frame whatsoever. You'll be able to roll it around on the ground. It'll be on casters. There'll be a shelf on the back, a slip-on, slip-off shelf for a gas bottle if you want to run a gas bottle attached to the unit. Otherwise, you can just put it on the floor, and it'll have a nice big 50 mil stainless exhaust as well. You need an exhaust. You need
Nice.
somewhere for the air and the gas pressure that's going into the furnace to exit.
Escape, yeah.
Yeah, but
So,
it's pretty good.
Fluidized sand beds.
Yep.
Yeah, talk to me about the like the benefits of it is speed mainly, right? And controllability. What would someone want one for over a kiln?
Yeah, well, that's all the things that are wrong with a kiln, right? Like you need huge amounts of electricity to get them to heat up, right? Heat up quickly. Like as some people would know, I've built half a dozen kilns as well for friends and stuff, and kilns were something I was going to offer, but they are better than a gas forge to heat treat in, but they're not as good as a fluidized sand bed. So a fluidized sand bed, built in this configuration, you can have it'll just be 240 volt, 10 amp out of the wall. So the advantage is, if everyone knows, even with a nice kiln, you're looking at, let's say, 45 minutes to an hour, unless you've got a pro model of whichever brand, which you need 3-phase and all that sort of stuff for. You're looking at around an hour to get to 1,000 degrees, let's just say. Now, if you put 8 kilos of sand in that, man, I don't know how long it's going to take to heat up. So there are people, and there's a mate of mine, Tobias. He does offer a fluidized sand tube to convert kilns over, which is a great option. But for me, being able to just plug it into a 10 amp and then have the fluidized sand, essentially, there's a lot of advantages. Heat control is one, because you've got that thermal mass of kilograms of sand. The heat temperature doesn't change very much. I've had this guy going, and you're talking a couple of degrees, like as in 3 or 4 degrees variance. You're also inert atmosphere. So if you're pumping argon through it, and you don't need to pump it through at a massive rate of knots, I would advise to just run a compressor to fluidize the sand whilst it's heating up. Just run compressed air through it, and then switch over to argon a minute or two before, or whatever you deem is appropriate before you start heat treating, so that you have an inert atmosphere.
Right.
So if you're heat treating stainless, there's no more foil wrap. There's just no need for it. There's no oxygen in the system whatsoever. Also, the speed of heat treating is the real killer here. So if you're heat treating, say with myself at home, if I'm heat treating and I want the target temperature to, say, the first temp of my cycle to be 900 degrees Celsius, I might set my kiln at 1,020. So when I dump the first 2 knives or whatever I go into it, it pulls out the heat energy off the top of the set point. So it pulls out that 100 degrees or 120 degrees, whatever it is, above your set point. And then, you close the door or whatever, and it does take probably takes another, at least, even doing that, it probably, and my kiln's 15 amp and it's 3,000 watts. And, it still takes probably 6-7 minutes to come back up to temperature. And then you're looking at a soak time from then. But with a fluidized sand bed,
100%.
It's if you've got 900 degrees, if your sand's 900, you put a knife in there, it makes no difference to there's so much thermal mass that it just transfers over to the cold steel without any change in temperature. 15 seconds.
Yeah, right.
30 seconds.
So if you're doing several knives in one go, that's the thing I've had in the past, obviously, with knives, or if you're, like, say, thermocycling them, or if you're tempering them, even whatever you're doing, and you're taking them out and you got to open the door and then close it again, there's a certain amount of time catch up. But if you're doing, say, 10 knives, one after the other, you can't put them all in my kiln won't have 10 knives, and I put 3 knives in it. But you could literally do one at a time with obviously no wait in between. You just treat it as the first time, basically. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's right. And you can still do more. I mean, the tubes will be 100 mil. So, for most people, you could put, 3 knives is what I would probably, recommend, 3 knives at a time in there.
Yeah, right.
And you're still back up to temperature, and you're at temperature. Temperature stays
All
here.
time.
The heat just transfers over to your cold steel, and 30, 40, 50 seconds later, not even that, you're up to temperature, and then your soak time starts from there. So for me personally, I think it'll cut my heat treating time in more than in half.
Oh, easy.
And
What's the gas consumption like, Jez?
it's pretty good. So you're talking about the gas volume, but it just bubbles through. So I've had a couple of goes at the stainless tube and the diffuser in the bottom to get the optimum size. I actually spoke to Tobias last night, and I'm going to go with what he's using, the way he's done his gas tube diffuser at the bottom. But I mean, we're only talking a quarter inch, a 6 mil feed line. With argon, you might use $5 worth of argon over an hour. Like it's not like you're pumping it through. It's not coming out so quickly that it's just creating dust. It's just literally bubbling. Gas at the bottom just needs to rise.
Yeah.
To keep that sand in motion. Yeah, and then you just you literally lower your blade down into it and on a piece of wire or cable or whatever it is, and away you go. So this it's going to be a really good option for people to be able to get that kind of. Well, you just can't get that speed with a kiln. It's pure and simple. It doesn't matter what you do. I mean, if you had, industrial heat treating, and I mean industrial heat treating stuff with furnaces the size of a car and energy bills to match, you may be able to, but you can't get that kind of speed with a professional type home kiln. And then you still need foil wrap for stainless. You need no decarb or very little to zero decarb. The finish.
Well, unless you use argon in your kiln.
Well, unless you use argon in your kiln, you could, definitely could. You need more volume. So I had my kiln here purged with argon, but you go through much more volume because you've got cracks, and you're trying to
you got to fill the whole space.
Yeah, you're trying to flood the entire void you're trying to flood the entire void with argon, and then every time you open the door, etc. Whereas with a fluidized sand bed, the argon is just there, so any atmosphere you're introducing is inert. You can do it with because there's no oxygen, incredibly little oxygen in between every grain of sandblasting media or whatever it is that you're using in there. So you're just trying to stop the introduction of any more atmosphere. So it's just, you could do it.
Yeah, well, because the surface area of obviously the grains in there take up. I mean, it's like that video. We've probably all seen it where matey gets that glass jar and he puts rocks in and he says, "Oh, it looks full, doesn't it?" And all these kids go, "Yeah." And then he puts a load of pebbles in and they all fall in between. And then he same thing. And blah blah. He gets down to sand, and he fits still heaps of sand in it. Yeah. And so if you think there's just sand, there's no space in between. There's like microns of gap in between. So that makes sense that you'd barely use any argon because it's just taking up small amounts of space.
It just needs to bubble through. It just, you're not worried about it flooding the entire crucible of sand. You're just worrying, you want the argon is just moving the sand to fluidize it, and you use argon just so that any atmosphere that's introduced is inert. You could do it with compressed gas if you don't care about it. Do you know what I mean? I haven't done it with just compressed gas, but you're going to get far less decarb in that situation with just gas than you would in a kiln with a carbon steel where the entire blade is just exposed to a hostile environment, I guess. But so that'll be good. There'll be one of those at the show. My one of those will be at the show, and I'll probably at this stage be taking pre-orders at the show for them. And if I can get if I could get a batch to do, would be preferable, and that helps me keep the price down. But the reality is that you're going to be looking at not exactly sure now, but depending on what you wanted to do with a controller, but at the top end of things, you would be looking at something like $2,700 to $3,000 for a fluidized sand bed with a controller, which is, like
cheaper than a
talking,
kiln.
It's in the same price as a kiln. The equivalent stuff from the commercially available electrical stuff is, it's in the $9,000 to $10,000 Australian market. So, and you still need the power to run it. Where this, you can just plug it into your 10 amp extension lead. The only electricity it's using is for the control, and that's it. So I have a flash Bartlett controller on mine, which is the same high-end touchscreen sort of controller that the Bartlett controllers are what Paragon and all that use. They just rename them and call them a Genesis or whatever it is. You can use a PID controller. You can build a PID controller in a box for about $300. You can buy them for about that from kiln supplies. So it's going to be a cheap, in inverted commas, way for people to get absolutely 100% professional heat treating capabilities for the same price or cheaper than a kiln, and not have to have 15 amp or 3-phase to get the speed. I mean, to have 10 amp power and have a knife go from, room temperature, ambient, to whatever your set point is in 20 seconds, you can't do that with electricity. You can't do that with a kiln. Sorry.
No.
So
I don't know if you mentioned, how long does the actual fluidized sand bed take to heat up to that temperature itself?
Well,
minutes.
So I'm still playing with the controller for this, but you're looking at, and the chokes and stuff on burners, half an hour if you want to, be pretty aggressive with it, or up to an hour if you wanted to be a little bit nicer with it. Right. So you're looking at a heat up time.
Still the same sort of heat up time.
Yeah, you're looking at heat up times comparable to a kiln. Heat up times comparable to a kiln with control that's better, an environment that's better for your knives. No cost of, you don't have a cost of foil, but you'll have the cost of argon welding gas, which, you can get these days at Bunnings and all those kind of places cheap enough. There's no downside. The only downside is spending the money initially. That's it. That quite literally is the only downside for me personally, because I do a lot of non-ferrous stuff as well. I'll have 2 tubes. So you could have 3 tubes if you want to, but I'll have 2 tubes so that they're all replaceable from the top, so you can pull the tube out without needing to pull the unit apart. And then so I will have 1 tube for carbon steel, or 1 tube for non-ferrous, and 1 tube for ferrous material, just to keep any contamination of copper and brass and things like that out of the heat treating. It's interesting. Yeah, and I'm started building 2 forges exactly the same as well, and they'll be done in that month after the show. So I'll have 2 digital control.
So what are you using forges for? Oh, forges. Sorry. I was thinking
forges,
kilns.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No. 2 digital controlled forges for steel production. So one digital controlled gas powered forge will be ferrous, and one will be non-ferrous.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Just to keep them separate. There's too many problems come with, copper induced hot shorting and other issues with when they share the same space. And when you
need a bigger worktop, Jez.
Nah. Well, upstairs still isn't used. I need to I've semi sorted out the power issues I was having with the unit. So now,
they
really
upgrade the breaker.
Yeah, so we changed the breaker in the unit. No, that hasn't changed, but I've changed the breaker in the unit, and I haven't had any issues even sort of pushing the limits. I haven't had any of the issues I was having before. So hopefully.
So did you change the breaker in the unit down size?
Yeah, so that I'd catch it there.
Yeah,
before it went out the front. And it's only popped once, and it was in the unit, so it didn't matter. I didn't need to call the strata people and have their electrician come and open a box out the front to flick a switch, which has been a nightmare. But so after the show, for me, I mean, the show's a big deal this year because we haven't had one for a year. And
didn't have one last year.
Well, not that no one's been able to sell anything. Yeah, but everyone's been busy. Like all the knife makers I know have been busy, but the opportunity to get to a show and see the people we haven't been able to see, and then also sell some stuff. Let's be honest, it's a bit of a big deal. So it takes time and energy and investment of money to get to the show. For me, I'll have about somewhere between 50 and 20 knives, and I'll also have somewhere around 100 bars of steel. So across probably 100 bars over 30 different layups is what I would say will be there. I'm unsure
30.
about, this will be my, probably, because I'm unsure about what people are going to want to buy, like and obviously this show, with having to pre-buy tickets, especially being a steel supplier, I don't think will really affect me, because anyone that's looking to buy steel already knows the show's on.
They're knife makers.
Like yeah, that's right. They're knife makers, or they're interested in it. It's not like, the last show I did really well at, but you capture a lot of people that are just looking for something to do on a Sunday,
You there, mate? And Jez and I continue to speak for about another 20 minutes. And at this point here, we realised that we hadn't pressed re-record because this software auto cuts out when it's a bad connection. So there's a bit missing here, but it was worth continuing to go on because it was a good info.
And I'm not too flash with the machining side of things. I don't do anything like, the other folder makers do it, but you really just don't need the tolerances. Yeah, all that. Like guys like Tim Kingsford and all those guys, their stuff's beautiful, but there's no buts. I don't have the ability to do that kind of work. So, but I like friction folders too.
Yeah. Mate, I want one of Ali Bastion's blades, but I asked him once how much they were, and I love Ali's stuff, and I won't say how much they are because it's for him to tell people what his prices are. But if I bought one of those, my wife would remove part of me with it.
Well,
guaranteed.
On removal of parts, you've got 2 kidneys, haven't you? Still, you only need one.
Yeah, well, that's true. I could probably trade a kidney in for one. I don't know what a kidney goes for nowadays.
To be honest,
I just realised, Jez.
You weren't recording.
Can you see the timer at the bottom? I wasn't recording for it glitched. When it glitched out, it stopped recording automatically. So I just sat there and I realised I don't know how long we haven't recorded for. So for anyone who's hearing this, you're going to get like half a podcast and then this weird little bit at the end.
You're going to have a big gap in the middle with all the good info.
All the good info about folders. Yeah. Everybody loves folders.
What's been going on over there with the UK knife making suppliers?
Well, it's doing all right, actually. Do you know, it's been a funny week, and it's happened once, twice before. It goes dead for a week, and I can never quite work out why. Literally, I didn't have a single order between, I think, Monday or Tuesday and today, and then suddenly, or yesterday maybe, suddenly I had like 5, 6, 7 orders or whatever in the few hours of Friday. It's just, I can never quite work out what happens. And then you get another 10 over the weekend or whatever. And I'm doing about 20 a week, but I've been doing 20 a week for a little while. I'm out of 50 mil 1084, which is one of my biggest things I sell. So I'm waiting for it. I should have another order of that coming in a few weeks, but so I've got that 50 mil 1084, but I've also got 6 mil thick and 10 mil thick 1084 coming as well, which could be cool. I want to do some integrals myself, so I just ordered like 100 bars of each of those.
Yeah.
So that can be fun, but yeah, busy as I've actually got it's absolutely hectic. I decided now, even though we've got so much going on in life, would be a good time to like enroll into Hereford College and see if I can actually become a blacksmith of some description. And they do this course, called the DFS course, and it's like a week release thingy. You go in.
Oh yeah, like
1 week
release kind of thing.
Yeah, block release. You go in 1 week every 4 months, maybe.
Yeah.
And I put in my application and a bit of information about myself. Had to take a maths and English exam, and it's supposed to start in September. So I was thinking I got to put a portfolio together of forged stuff. And so I've been forging quite a bit recently. So I thought that's all right. And then I get this letter today saying, come in on the 7th for your interview, bring your portfolio, and be prepared to have physical examinations, like practical examinations, not like checking my prostate or nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's right. No, but like they're gonna, from what I can tell, they're gonna forge some stuff and then get you to replicate it, copy it. And so it was a bit of a panic stations when I got the letter. I was like, and from what I've heard, like half the people who go on this DFS course quit within the first like 6 weeks or something because they can't keep up with the work. So
they're trying to weed out the junk, I guess. Yeah,
that's right. So I think this is the first time I've really told anyone about it. So now I'm just telling the whole world. So now I better get in, because if I don't get in, well, the worst comes to worst. If I don't get in, Dan Moss wants to do it, and so Dan's going to do it next year, and I'll get to a point where I've got a good enough portfolio for next year, I guess. But if worst comes to worst, so there you go. I'm just giving myself a fallback.
Yeah, I'm going to study next year again as well.
What are you studying?
Well, I'm going to do my Cert 10 World Inspectors course next year.
Right.
Yeah, so I've already got pressure tickets and stuff like that. But the next step for me is to, the World Inspector. I think it's the Cert 10 is World Inspectors Application of Australian Standards, blah blah blah. So it's kind of world inspecting, and as part of that, you do all the QC stuff. But it's
right. Hang on. So it allows you to be an inspector. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So writing all the world procedures and non-destructive testing of welds and joints and all that kind of thing. So that'll be good. I think it's
man.
It'll be all next year. It'll be all next year. I think it's 240 hours, something like that.
Blimey.
So I've kind of been
this
thing I'm work.
Yeah. Or taking a break before it.
No. Well, no. I mean, the last couple of years at work, I have. Oh,
right.
Yeah, my work's it's a great workplace, but just kind of been doing my thing. You know what I mean? Just going into work, clock in, clock out kind of stuff. And just family's a little bit more settled now. The wife's work's a little, well, she's still flat out, but, kids in school, that kind of stuff. It's going to be difficult, like it all is, but it's something I've always wanted to do. It kind of just ended up a couple of years ago. I was going to do it, and then for whatever reasons I didn't, and it's kind of come back up again. And I've spoken to the bosses at work about whether that was something that they would see as beneficial. So they're pretty keen. I mean, we pay people to do all the NDT and all the world procedures, inspections, and world qualifications every 6 months or whatever it is that guys need to qual for. So, that may just end up being. Well, it'll either be done in-house, or I'll have a van, and I'll, when they want to use those, that skill set, I may then, be a contractor at that point for those hours, and then go back to the hourly rate afterwards. Not sure about any of that stuff yet, but it's just something I've wanted to do. So it's not a disadvantage. I mean, there's not that many world inspectors around. So, and especially that are, employable, so to speak. You know, there's a lot of older blokes, well, not a lot, but there's older blokes and whatever, but you're not going to put them on the tools anywhere. So,
Right.
you know, it makes, you know, if I was to move on from where I'm at, I'd make, not that I'm not an attractive proposition for an employer anyway, but to have these kind of tickets, it's as qualified as you can be. I'll be pretty much as qualified as you can be as a tradesman in my trade. You can't really be any more qualified than that. You know, with Cert 4 and pressure tickets and world inspectors, Cert 10. That's it. Yeah, there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, right. You'll be the daddy. Then what do? You stop welding completely and just be a manager somewhere?
No, that'll never happen. I mean, the way the streams at my current work are kind of, you know, you can be a tradesman or you can be management, and there's a few things going on with the structures around work with wages and stuff, and it seems like there may end up being sort of two streams, you know, where you can be. There's definitely the potential to be a good tradesman on the floor, getting paid more than people in the office are, managers and leading hands and stuff like that. So that's kind of, you know, also spurred this on that I was a leading hand.
Which is kind of how it should be, hey?
Whatever, and I don't want to go back down that road. Well, you don't need to be, like, I was a good leading hand. I mean, the reality is you don't need to be you don't need to be a good tradesman to be a good manager. You just don't. They're two different things, and
different animals.
And I think quite often a lot of places get caught. Yeah, that's right. And I think a lot of places get caught up in, you know, your managers need to be on however many dollars more than the guys on the floor. But the reality is, if you've got pay grades 1, 2, up to 10, or 4 or whatever it is, and then you've got managers above that, if they come out of that managerial position and then they don't meet all the criteria for those pay grades underneath, you can't pay them that. So, you know, you know, if you're a production supervisor and you're a tradesman, and then for whatever reason that job becomes not good for you or whatever, and you want to come back onto the floor, you might find yourself back down to the bottom of the run because you are a Cert 3 base level tradesman with this skill set.
Yeah,
and there's other guys that are further up the run than that. So yeah, I think it's
makes sense.
Yeah, yep. So it looks like I'll be doing this for a few years yet.
Few years yet. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, Jez, I'm finding it harder and harder to hear you, brother.
Yeah. All right.
So we'll have to do this another night when we can connect you to the actual internet. I think you're too far away from the Wi-Fi box or something. But sick. All right.
Yeah. All right, man.
Dude, where can people find you?
Just the usual. Like owner, I've got a very popular OnlyFans page. Just Oblivion Blades. Oblivion Blades on Instagram, Oblivion Blades on the Facebook, and there will be some changes with that coming soon too. So
yeah, right.
Keep posted.
Look forward to seeing those. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, dude. Good to catch up with you.
OnlyFans, Hot Stuff 69. See you, man. Bye.
Okay, so sorry about that. With that little bit of a glitch in the middle, you missed a little bit of information about folders and about some of Jez's steel, but the rest of it was all gold. Thank you very much for listening. You can obviously find me at tobyfireandsteel.com and all Toby Fire and Steel on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and whatnot. And obviously UK Knife Make Supplies. Now, I'm going to sneak this in the end and see how many people listen to it. It's been too long that I think we've been sponsored by UK Knife Make Supplies and there's been no discount code. So what I think I'm going to do is every week that I remember, I'm going to change the discount code and I'm going to give a full 5%. So it's not a lot amount, but 5% of every single item on the UK Knife Make Supplies store. And it's going to be Missing Audio 5 for this week. So put Missing Audio 5 into your purchase this week, starting from Sunday, tomorrow, today, I suppose, as we're putting it out to Sunday. So from Sunday to the following Sunday, I'd like to see how many people do that. Thanks very much. Missing Audio 5. Hooroo.